Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens, and this is Carly Stevens Books for all things writing, publishing, and indie author life. Today I have an honest review for you of a brand new writing book called The Happy Writer. Get more ideas, write more words, and find more joy from first draft to publication and beyond by Marissa Meyer. Now that is quite the mouthful of a subtitle. I feel like it is a little key-wordy, but I've been looking forward to this ever since Marissa Meyer announced that she was going to be writing a book about writing through her podcast of the same name, The Happy Writer. It just ended, the podcast did, but I would definitely recommend it. Listening to some of those back episodes. It's an interview style podcast for the most part, where Marissa Meyer, who is the author of The Lunar Chronicles, among many other works, talks to different people about their process, how they became writers, and how people can find joy in their writing. So I love that concept. The idea that we need to be miserable or really focus on the negative side of writing, I think, is something that could bear to be challenged. And so Marissa has made her entire brand about hopefulness, I would say, you know, finding joy. She always has cute characters, even in some of her darker works. There's just this playfulness, and so I enjoy the voice that she has in her books, in her podcast, and I was looking forward to it here in The Happy Writer. I'm not going to read that subtitle again, but you get the idea. So I just binged through it. There is an audiobook version read by Marissa Meyer through Spotify. That's how I got a hold of it, but I also kind of went back and forth between the book itself and the audio version to see if there were any nuggets that she did not narrate, or, you know, things like that, because the page count seemed a little bit different, and it turns out that there are a couple of extras that you can get in the physical copy of the book that are not in the audio copy of the book, like you know, an index, some sources, some additional notes, some recipes, you know, little things like that. Okay, so my thoughts on The Happy Writer. I tend to enjoy craft books. I am somebody who, as you probably know if you're here, enjoys teaching. I like when people really get to the point of something. Like when I was at my teaching job, a lot of people didn't like the weekly staff meetings. I didn't mind, as long as people stayed on task. If people communicated clearly, concisely, didn't keep us there longer than they needed to, that kind of thing, then I didn't mind a staff meeting. It was when people kind of rambled off that I really was over it. And for a lot of my nonfiction, I feel similarly. So some of my favorite nonfiction is very much to the point. You know, I enjoyed Atomic Habits. The Talent Code, I thought was quite good. You know, as far as non-writing writing books. The Happy Writer is not primarily a craft book. So if you are expecting that, then you're going to be disappointed, I think. There are definitely some practical suggestions, but they're almost all motivational or mindset things, which are, don't get me wrong, completely crucial to a writing life, and something that is not talked about maybe as often as it should be. Having resiliency, finding joy, those sorts of things are so important to avoid burnout and just bitterness and with the difficulty of this job. But this is more of a mindset book than anything else. How can you be happy and a writer? So it's organized roughly chronologically through the writing process. So get more ideas, write more words, first draft, publication, and beyond. That's essentially how it's organized. I liked how short the chapters were. Each suggestion or bit of information was given its own chapter, so the chapter list is pretty extensive. I like that. It made it really easy to read. It's going to make it easy to reference in the future when I need a little bit of a pick-me-up or a new angle on how to come up with ideas, or, you know, different different ways to stay healthy, both mentally and physically. So I enjoyed the way that was set up. This is definitely geared toward traditionally published authors, which is no surprise. That is the world that Marissa Meyer is coming from herself. It's the world that she knows, and that she helps others with through things like posting her successful query letter on her website. It's a great resource if you are thinking about being traditionally published, her website that is, and to a certain extent this book as well. But she, without having that much experience with indie publishing, doesn't really address it. So there was a short section or two that was very specific to getting published, getting an agent, getting an editor, that I skimmed over. I skipped a couple of pages, not very much, but just full disclosure, because it did not apply to me and the place that I am in my career right now. Something I did appreciate about the people that she's talking to in this book is that it applies to those who are just at the very cusp of beginning to write a book at all. You know, they've written a couple sentences down and now they want to see what this whole writing life is like. But the words also apply sometimes explicitly to people who are in the middle of their careers, who have published several books that might be getting burned out in very different ways. So I liked that. There's a lot of advice for people who are brand new, but I don't find quite as much for people who are in the position that I'm in, which is not as successful as I want to be financially, but I have put out many books and, you know, I feel like I have some of this writing stuff down, at least to a level that I'm happy with, and I'm building on that. So to have some of this advice aimed at me was very nice. So yeah, I ended up liking it, but most of the advice, it was like a compendium of things that I largely had thought of before, had seen before. There wasn't much that was truly new here. However, as a resource where everything's compiled in one place to kind of help with mindset, I think it's a lovely resource for that. Like I said, I really like Marissa Meyer and the energy that she brings to the writing community. How she is there for young writers. She is encouraging to, older or more established writers, and I think she just seems like a lovely person, and it definitely helps that the Lunar Chronicles are one of my favorite series. You definitely get her voice in this, so it's very cheery. It is very cheery, so that is largely the point of the book, to be a happy writer, right? But if you're not ready to hear from somebody who is overtly optimistic, who is very hopeful, who is happy in general, then maybe the tone is not going to sit with you super well. Maybe a different book or article or whatever would suit you better. But even I, who have been feeling pretty cynical and things like that for several months, enjoyed this because it feels like it's coming from an honest place, and I didn't get the sense of toxic positivity where you aren't allowed to acknowledge the more difficult parts or grief or anger or whatever it is. It was, how do you find happiness and joy despite those things, after those things. There still was an acknowledgement that there are elements of life and elements of this job that are legitimately difficult, or, you know, at times even kind of awful, but how do you maintain overall a happy existence in this difficult work? So yeah, I would say I recommend this book to most people. If what I said sounds good to you, then definitely check it out. This is brand new. When I went to sign books at Barnes & Noble this past weekend, I knew that this book had just come out, and I tasked the booksellers with searching for it because it wasn't where it was supposed to be, and there was one copy, and I bought it right away. So yeah, run out, try it out, listen to the audiobook, and let me know what you think down in the comments. All right, well, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more writing, publishing, and indie author life. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you next week. Bye.